Some Bitcoiners are showing their support for Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang with Bitcoin. Humanity Forward is one of about a dozen Bitcoin groups that will accept campaign donations from Lightning wallets. The Super PAC, which does support Yang, is partnering with OpenNode to accept Bitcoin donations for 21 days. After 3 weeks, it will also accept traditional currency.
This kind of donation is actually a first for a presidential candidate, and candidate Yang's campaign website even has an official promise to, quote, promote legislation that provides clarity to the cryptocurrency industry. Joining us now via Skype is the founder of Humanity Forward Fund, Seth Cohen. Seth, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Seth, what inspired you to support Andrew Yang in the first place, and why start with Bitcoin?
We believe Andrew Yang is the best chance we have at transitioning to the 21st century without great social upheaval. We have a lot of issues in the country, a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunity. And we believe Andrew Yang is our best chance at both avoiding the issues and taking advantage of the opportunities.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about how Yang initially came on your radar, what you think of his campaign, and specifically his sort of core of his campaign. He has a lot of ideas, but the core of it is around what he calls the freedom dividend, universal basic income, his version. Why is that idea appealing to you?
I first knew about Andrew prior to him actually declaring a run. I was a fan of UBI. I've always realized that it was going to be necessary sooner or later. I didn't honestly think we were going to be able to get it passed so quickly, but I do believe we need to. As I said, our country has a lot of issues, a lot of challenges ahead of us. And I believe Andrew presents the best opportunity to tackle those challenges.
Mm-hmm. So on a broader level, I'm actually one of the reasons I wanted to do this, because Bitcoin in the political sphere obviously has a lot of regulatory implications about only American citizens and certain amounts and the variable price. How is your organization dealing with that?
Well, it sounds a lot more complicated than it is, actually. With OpenNode and Bitcoin donations, we are collecting the exact same information that any other organization would collect. Most of the Democrats are using Act Blue at this point, and we will be using Act Blue after these first 21 days. The information that OpenNode collects is the exact same information that Act Blue collects, and we will be declaring it all to the FEC the same method.
That's very interesting. So I think on UBI in particular, what is it about UBI that has really captured the minds of so many people out in Silicon Valley and in LA where you are? It's not something that is necessarily on the radar for a lot of folks here in Washington. So why is that the policy you think to best transition away from to an automated economy?
There's so many different issues that we need to tackle right now. And there's a lot of proposals from a lot of the Democrats, everything from free college to debt forgiveness for college, Medicare for all. Now, Andrew does support a lot of those. He has slight differences as to how he wants to enact some of these things. But I believe UBI rises all of us, right? So a lot of these different policies help certain groups of people. Only 33% of Americans go to college. So free college or debt forgiveness for college is only going to help a small percentage of Americans. UBI is literally going to help every single American, and we can literally eradicate poverty in the next 8 years.
One of the criticisms of UBI, particularly when it is being advocated by a lot of folks in Silicon Valley, is basically, people say, oh, this is just a salve for them since they've created a lot of the inequality that we see in the country. This is a way for them to continue to get richer and richer, continue doing exactly what they're doing, and sort of throw out some token pennies to the peasants throughout the rest of the country. How do you respond to that criticism, and how do you make sure that that's not how the policy is perceived by folks in the industrial Midwest, for example?
Well, first of all, UBI is not a new concept, right? It's older than America. And throughout Americans' history, we've had numerous attempts at passing it, and it almost became law in the 70s. Other people, including former President Obama, has come out supporting UBI, knowing that it is going to be necessary. Now, Silicon Valley, we've had a history of letting technologies kind of run rampant before we get involved as a government, as a populace. Things like cryptocurrency coming down the pike, we need to get ahead of these things. And Andrew is a forward-looking candidate and plans to work with these industries to enact common sense solutions and common sense regulatory frameworks so that these technologies can work for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Last question for you, Seth. The thing I've heard about this is that UBI is basically a massive inflationary policy, which is that if you give everybody $1,000 a month, the parity of price on many of these goods will leave, and that it's not effective. What makes you think otherwise?
Well, the math just doesn't back that up. There's been numerous UBI studies all over the world, and the math just doesn't back that up. I'd also say that inflation is generally caused when new money is created. Andrew is not proposing to create any new money. Additionally, with the VAT tax that Andrew's proposing to pay for a good chunk of the UBI, in order for the UBI to not be a net benefit, you'd be having to spend tens of thousands of dollars on luxury goods and non-essential goods in order for the tax to match what the UBI would be giving you. So yeah, there might be a slight inflation, but nowhere close to like eradicating that extra $1,000 a month.
Well, we know your guy made the next round of debates in September, so he's here to stay to continue selling the gospel of UBI to the people of the Freedom Dividend. Seth, thank you so much. Great to have your insights today.
Thanks, Seth.
So much. It was a pleasure.
We'll have more Rising after this.